It was a tough night for Boston College athletics as men's basketball loses to Louisville and Boston College men's hockey gets absolutely annihilated by Notre Dame. We're going to talk about all of this and more on today's Locked On Boston College.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black. I'm also the editor and publisher of BCBulletin.com, part of the Fan Nation Network. Check out all my work there if you want news on basketball, football, recruiting, everything. We got it all over there. You're going to want to check all of that out. Not a very pretty game for Boston College basketball on Wednesday as they drop their second road game of the week to Louisville, 67-54. What was the issue in this game? Boston College's offense just could not figure anything out. Makai Ashton Langford had 22 points. The rest of the team combined had 32. So Makai Ashton Langford basically was doing everything. Now, BC shot just over 30% for the game. They were hovering under 30 for most of it, but they hit a few shots now at the end. They just couldn't figure out how to do it. They weren't getting any shots. Brevin Galloway just had a tough game. Most of the, TJ Bickerstaff had points, but he also was struggling. James Karnick struggled. Quentin Post, they weren't good from the free throw line. They were terrible from 3-point range. Man, I would kill to get Boston College a 3-point shooter that can consistently do it. Galloway does it at times, but he's also had some games where he just hasn't been able to hit it. And down the stretch in the second half, Louisville just took over. They had some big plays down the end. Malik Williams had some nice shots. Sidney Curry. You saw them basically, start to assert their will. They're a more talented team than Boston College. BC held their own for parts of this game. They were only down by 2 going into halftime. But I think that was a lot of, both teams started off really sluggish. There was an hour plus, not rain delay. I want to call it a rain delay, but it was kind of a rain delay. There was a leak in the ceiling of the Yum Center, and they had to postpone it for an hour. And I desperately wanted to make a joke about BC wanting to quit on this game because that's what Boston College does to just to incite the ECU fans again. But I resisted. I promise you I wouldn't do it. But it took a while. Louisville kind of came out looking a little sluggish. They were, they had more turnovers than BC. BC just couldn't put anything together. The 3-point shooting is an issue, but when you can't shoot from the free throw line, they went to the line and had 20 free throw shots and hit 10 of them. You're leaving 10 points on the board right there. I know you're not going to hit 100% of them, but you can't be shooting 50% from the free throw line as a team. That's just not feasible. So Boston College did that. They didn't have answers on the defensive end near the end of the game. They just started getting run off the court again. And that was it. Now, is this disappointing? Sure. It's all, anytime a team loses, it's a disappointing thing. But, as I said in the last show, not every game is going to be the Clemson game. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be games that are good. There's going to be games that you're like, what the heck are we watching? This is kind of in the middle. It wasn't like a complete disaster, but it also wasn't very encouraging either, because if you see a team shoot like that, you want to see, you start to wonder. But Boston College falls to 2-4 in the ACC. They're going to play Virginia Tech on Saturday. Virginia Tech just beat NC State. They're a good team. That'll be a good matchup for Boston College. But, there's not much to take away from this game. Quentin Post, man, he's going to shoot free throws better. He's one that I always notice. I'm like, why? He's got, and I love to see him finish a little harder at the rim. He just seems to go up with like a feather touch every time. It's like, just slam the damn ball home, Quentin, but he doesn't. That's okay. Anyways, so Boston College basketball falls, another game where BC just doesn't play a complete game, and when they don't play a complete game, they fall. But I have to say, I thought they were going to still be in this to the end, and they did. So that's a credit to them. I know they lost by 13, but for the most part, they were in this, here and there for most of it. So they'll play Virginia Tech, as I said, on Saturday. Now, it was just a depressing night of Boston College sports. As Boston College hockey, I'm not going to get into the ins and outs because I, again, didn't watch this game. I was into the BC Louisville game, so I didn't get a chance to watch the hockey game. BC Hockey had I think it's one of their final out of conference games, and against Notre Dame, who's now back as part of the Big Ten in hockey. They lost 8-2 to Notre Dame, including allowing 5 goals in the second period. I said on earlier this week that Boston College hockey's in trouble. Oh man, I didn't think they were in this much. I mean, losing 2 games to UNH is trouble. Getting your doors blown off by Notre Dame is another level of trouble. And they get to go play Providence at this weekend, who's a pretty good Hockey East team. This team is in major trouble. They are clearly not, championship caliber. I don't think they're Hockey East championship caliber. I don't even think they're playoff contender, tournament caliber. I mean, when you play so poorly, you let up 8 goals. I don't care, who it's against. Notre Dame's not a bad team, but you can't do that. And it was just an embarrassing loss. I hope Boston College can figure some things out and get this end of the season going, because this is one of the most disappointing. I mean, I didn't have high expectations going into the season, but to see BC so middling, so not where they should be, it's just tough. I mean, you had last year where you had guys out there with the Alex Newhooks, the Spencer Knights. They don't really. I mean, Jack McBain is decent star power this year, but it just doesn't have that same feel. It doesn't have that feel that Boston College hockey has had for a long time. So it was a tough loss, and we'll have to see if Boston College can put it together at the end of the season. Now, in a moment, BC football had a busy day, and as if you saw BC Bulletin, I had a lot to talk about. In the next 2 segments, we're going to talk about their mid-year enrollees. They had transfers leaving. We had transfers coming in. All sorts of roster news you're going to want to know. So check that out in just a moment. This is it. The putt that could win the tournament. If you sink it, the championship is yours, but on your backswing, your hat falls over your eyes. Is this how you're running your business? Poor visibility because you're relying on spreadsheets and outdated software? To see the full picture, you need to upgrade to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is the #1 cloud financial system to power your growth. With visibility and control of your financials, inventory, HR planning, budgeting, and more, NetSuite is everything you need to grow, all in one place. And with NetSuite, you can automate your processes and close your books in no time while staying well ahead of your competition. 93% of surveyed businesses increase their visibility and control after upgrading to NetSuite. Over 28,000 businesses already use NetSuite. For the new year, NetSuite has a new financing program for those ready to upgrade at netsuite.com/locked. Again, head to netsuite.com/locked for the special one-of-a-kind financing offer on the #1 financial system for growing businesses. Again, that's netsuite.com/locked. This is Locked On Boston College, AJ Black. We're going to start talking some roster management here with the football team, as Boston College football had 2 more players enter the transfer portal. We had said yesterday it was kind of odd that Tyler Vrabel entered the NFL draft, and now we're getting guys still deciding what they want to do about the portal and entering kind of late. It's kind of that weird spot in between the end of the season and spring practice, because you get guys that are going to enter in spring because they're going to find out maybe they're not going to be the starter come fall, or they're not happy with where their role is. But we had 2 guys that entered in this kind of like middle period. And I'll have to say, one of them shocked me. Well, not shocked, kind of surprised me a little bit. And the other one was not surprised at all. I was actually kind of waiting for him to enter. The first one that was kind of a surprise was Jelani Galloway. Galloway was a wide receiver from Providence, Rhode Island. He had a good year in 2020 where he had about 20 catches for a couple hundred yards. He had that big touchdown against Louisville. He played the third or fourth, probably the 4th or 5th receiver on that team. There was a couple guys that got banged up, and he jumped in. In 2021, he really didn't see much time, and he was healthy, so it wasn't like he wasn't getting on the field. He played in 9 games. I think he had 2 catches through the whole year for about 15 yards, so his role was pretty limited. I don't know, I'm guessing based off of some of the things going on that, he probably found out his role probably wouldn't have been that big. You have coming back Jalen Gill, Zay Flowers, Jaden Williams is obviously going to get a bigger role. I still think Taji Johnson's going to get a big role. And you're going to have, and we'll talk a little bit more about the guys jumping in, but you also have Taji Johnson, Joseph Griffin. You have a bunch of names of guys that probably need to get snaps quicker, and they might have a higher upside than Galloway, who only has a year remaining. So good luck to him. Hopefully he'll find himself a new spot. The other positional player, wide receiver, that is finding a new place is Ethan Williams. Ethan Williams was I remember Steve Adazio praising him as some other people at BC told me too, practice warrior, really good upside. They said he was going to be a star here at BC. He had a good 2019 season where you started to see him play a little bit. He had 3 catches for 56 yards, and then everything went off the rails for him injury-wise. He missed most of 2020 with injuries, missed all 11 games, didn't play. Or he played, but it wasn't very much. 2021, he didn't play at all. And I was honestly surprised he was still on the roster. When injuries happen and they linger for more than a year, you start to think, is this something that's going to interrupt his goals of playing football? So when he entered the portal, I was oh, that makes sense. I just didn't expect him to still be on the team. I just thought, given his injury history, that, maybe something else would happen. And hopefully he finds a good spot to go to. Another guy that I know that the staff was high on, and they're just finding as I've said before, with this super senior thing that happened with COVID, where players got an extra year of eligibility, it really throws a monkey wrench into their recruiting and transfer portal management. So the more guys that leave that aren't like part of your major plan, honestly, it's not the worst thing. So I think it was Keith Wynn, who's a Louisville writer for SB Nation, say, Boston College has lost 4 guys now in the as wide receiver, not starters, but their depth must be really concerning. So just to review, if you haven't been paying attention, so we already just said Williams and Galloway are both in the transfer portal, but also Kobe White and CJ Lewis are also in the transfer portal. It's 4 wide receivers. It's a valid point to wonder, but I think Boston College has good depth on that roster, and I think maybe that depth is what caused these other 4 guys to go find someplace else to play, because they need to get them out there. As I said when CJ Lewis entered, Tajee Johnson's a wide receiver that needs to get out there fast, because you don't want to lose him to the transfer portal when you have him for, I think, 3 more years. You want to get him touches. He's a big 6'3" wide receiver, really big target that had done really well with Phil Jakovic during the summer. He needs to get on the field soon. So he's one guy you're going to see more of. Joseph Griffin II is a true freshman that I've heard nothing but big things about. I know he isn't on the roster yet, and he didn't come for the spring semester, so that could mix things up. But Jaden Williams, I don't think, did either, so it doesn't really matter in that sense. But he's a guy that you're going to want to get out there. Lewis Bond is now going to be a redshirt freshman, and I've also heard, big things about him at practice. He's going to be another guy that you're going to watch for. So those 3 just right there are names you're going to watch for. And then you can hope that some of the other guys that are coming up also start to progress. So you have like Dante Reynolds, who is Lewis Bond's teammate from Illinois. He was more of a practice squad wide receiver as a true freshman, but, maybe he picked up the offense a little better and he starts to move up the depth chart. You could see him move up. You could also see guys like Ish Zamor, who's a true freshman who isn't coming in early either, but he could also have a big summer too. And then we'll talk about him in the next moment, but Dino Tomlin's another name you're going to want to watch for. Dino Tomlin is Mike Tomlin's son. We'll talk about him in a moment, but he's a transfer with some experience. He could also jump in. So there's, you lose guys like, I get it. CJ Lewis is someone you probably wanted to hold on to, but you have a guy that can replace him. I no offense to Kobe White or Ethan Williams, but both of those guys were really banged up. And even if guys, the starters last year got hurt, neither of Kobe or Ethan would have been able to play for BC. It would have been with somebody else. So those guys, I don't think of them as big losses. Like, they're nice players and wish them the best, but is it really a damage to their depth? I don't think so. And Jelani Galloway, he had his moments, but is he replaceable? Yeah. I think you can find guys on your roster that can do what he did. So not a huge loss for Boston College. And again, always want to wish these guys the best. Hopefully they find a place where they can strive and play really well. So in our final moment, we're going to talk about the early enrollees. We'll get into, who's coming on campus, what you can expect, and 2 surprise transfers that we kind of knew a little bit about, at least one of them, heading into next year. It's a new betting year, and BetOnline would like to wish you a happy new betting year as we continue our march to the playoffs and beyond. BetOnline remains the #1 spot for all the best sports wagering action for 2022. With a new year and new updated desktop and mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Just use our promo code LOCKEDON to get started. From football, basketball, hockey, boxing, and UFC, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for 2022. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to wager on all your favorite sports. So head on over to BetOnline, where the game starts. On Wednesday, Boston College announced 8 new enrollees that are enrolling early for Boston College football heading into spring football. These guys are all going to be able to practice with the team and get ready and play in the spring game if they're ready to go. So Boston College, let's get into the transfers for it first. There were 6 freshmen that are coming in, but 2 transfers. And as I've said on the show, that there were a bunch of names that I just haven't heard BC connected with names. One of these guys I had said on our premium member Discord channel as someone to watch for just because of his connection to BC. The other one kind of shocked me. I just didn't think he would be connected to BC, but we'll talk about that in a second. The first one is Dino Tomlin. He's a wide receiver and a redshirt junior. He's from the University of Maryland, and if you hear that last name, Tomlin, that is the Pittsburgh Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin's son. So we lose a NFL coach's son in Mike Vrabel. We gain one with Mike Tomlin. So expect next year for 12 games and hopefully another bowl game that we'll be hearing all about BC's famous athletes on their roster. So Dino Tomlin is a former 3-star recruit. He had some decent offers, not a huge offer list, but he had 2 receptions and 12 yards last season after not appearing as a freshman. He played mostly on special teams the year before as a redshirt freshman as well. As I just said, Boston College lost a bunch of players on the transfer portal. Getting a guy, and I don't know what Tomlin's relationship is with Hafley, but getting a guy, anytime you can get a kid that has a high profile like that, can't be the worst thing in the world, because then you get Mike Tomlin showing up at games, and you have Mike Tomlin on TV wearing BC stuff and things like that. So hopefully that kind of rub will continue, because I remember watching all those Vrabel press conferences where he had BC gear on, and it always gets people talking about the school. So that hopefully will be there, and maybe he's a good player too. I mean, I honestly don't watch Maryland football, but 3-star. He had a limited role, so it's not really hard. It's hard to see, but maybe the staff saw something in his tape that they really liked. Now, the name, if you were on our premium Discord channel that I had talked about as a name to watch for, was Regan Taylor, and I hope I get his name right. Regen Taylor. Terry. Excuse me, not Taylor. Regan Terry. He is a defensive lineman from the University of Arizona. Now, if you know the last name, there's Reggie Terry, who's on Boston College's staff. He's a senior. He's a senior associate athletic director, Reggie Terry. I was surprised Regan didn't end up at BC the first time. So this makes a lot of sense for him to head at BC now. He played he didn't play this last season, but he had a more impressive to me offer list than what Dino Tomlin had. He had offers from Nebraska, USC, Arizona State, and Boise State, and a bunch of other schools too. Those were some of the big ones. Good 3-star recruit. Boston College they just need more athletes on that defensive line, and filling in a role here and there, for a defensive end. I'm totally fine with them getting more guys and to fill those spots. So those are the 2 transfers. Again, not game blowing up transfers. You're not getting JT Daniels or Caleb Williams or Mario Williams, the wide receiver who ended up at USC. You're getting just some depth play. These are depth players. That's what Hafley's kind of said all along. What he's going to do is he's not going to go out and build his team off the depth chart. Off of the transfer portal. He's going to get depth guys, and that's exactly what he did with those 2. Now, the 6 players that are true freshmen that are coming are Jude Bowery. He's a 3-star offensive lineman from St. Francis Academy in Maryland. He's a big dude. Probably won't play right away, but given that Boston College lost 4 offensive linemen off their offensive line, he could find his role, as a backup on the 2 deep if he has a good spring. Totally don't rule that out right now, because, man, they're going to have some spots. So he could be someone to watch for. Sam Candotti, he's the freshman punter from Australia. I can't wait to watch him. I love rugby, Aussie rules football punters, and that's exactly who he is. He just learned football a couple years ago. He took a camp with a NFL punter. I don't have the name in front of me, but he worked with him, learned how to punt. He's going to be doing that Aussie rules punting. Grant Carlson's gone, I believe. I haven't seen the roster yet, but I believe he's out of eligibility. So Candotti probably will be the punter next year. So good to get him in early. And get, from Australia, you want to give him that time to acclimate. It's going to take a little while, coming from another continent to come here to play. So you'll see him probably earlier. Jeremiah Franklin is a big time catching tight end from Maryland. Glad to see him I'm glad to see either him or Regan to get in early, because I think Boston College is going to have some room for a tight end to step up. And maybe it's going to be Franklin. Maybe he gets that leg up in camp. And I don't know if he'll play right away, but Boston College, I think, is going to need someone to challenge Joey Luchetti as that starting catching tight end. And, not to discourage Luchetti at all, but I think Franklin probably will have a higher upside. So, maybe Franklin starts, lower on the depth chart and works his way up. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he doesn't play at all. But he'll be someone you'll want to watch for at the tight end position. Amari Jackson, I'm glad to see him back. Interestingly, if you're interested in recruiting, I just talked to, and I'll have an interview up with one of his teammates. BC just offered, I think, like 2 or 3 of his teammates from Georgia. It's a good school, big time. It's Eagles Landing Christian Academy, in Georgia. Really good talent. The next name that popped up that is coming in early, I didn't even know who it was because apparently he's got a different last name now, and we had him on our podcast as Noah Clifford, but he's apparently going by Noah Kahape now. Kahapea, I'm guessing how to say it. I don't have the pronunciation guide yet. And he's that offensive lineman that came from Tennessee. He, Ravenwood, Tennessee, started down there, came up to Connecticut, and will be an offensive lineman. Just like Bowery, he'll have his chance to crack the 2 deep. I get the sense that Bowery's a little bit more polished than Clifford at this point, or Kahapea, but we'll see. That's what camps are for. And Edwin Kalange, another guy that we had on the podcast. If you listened earlier, you got to hear a lot of these guys. He's a 3-star linebacker from Canada who transferred to Connecticut. Boston College will have room in that linebacker room. So, all these guys that are coming into places that I think Boston College will have some space. And these guys could earn it during camp. So it's in their best interest to get in there early. So we'll have to see. And I don't think Boston College is done with 2022 kids in terms of recruiting. I saw a new offer out. If you haven't done it already, I've got so much, and I apologize. Today was nuts with the transfer portal stuff. But I'll have a ton of recruiting information up for premium members. So if you're a premium member, again, it's only $1 for the first month. It's a cup of coffee after that. You get access to all the recruiting information I have, and I've been talking to a ton of recruits. I've been talking to the staff. I've got some new names up there. You get into our Discord channel where I again drop more nuggets and talk to you guys about any questions you have. And then our premium Maroon and Gold forums, which I'm trying to get more of you guys over to. I have so many people signed up for premium stuff, but you guys aren't using the forums. I want you to use that too. But there'll be premium boards up there that'll have some more information as well. So check all that out and sign up today, and let me know if you do. I'd love to have you on the boards. All right, thank you all for following. You can follow me on Twitter at AJBlack_BC. You can follow my Twitter account for the podcast at LockedOnBC. Make sure to find us on YouTube. I see a few more of you signing up every day to subscribe, and I want to thank each and every single one of you who have done that. It's a humongous help, and it helps grow our podcast. YouTube does more than any other podcast app can do. So make sure just to hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Sign up for a free account. It will help tremendously. We'll be back tomorrow with more BC news. We'll talk a little bit more about the basketball game. We'll have everything you'll want to know about Boston College sports. Thank you, and have a good one.